It has been 1 year since I opened my first project in Unity, so I thought I would make this totally original video idea about how I started making games and what I've learned over the past year. So 1 year ago, I was scrolling through YouTube, really bored, and I found a video of someone making a game in Unity. And I was like, cool, I want to do that. So the next day, I installed Unity. Yeah, that's basically it. So when I opened my first project in Unity, I immediately went to YouTube because I had no idea what was going on. So after finding a good video and completely copying the code, 3 days later I finished my first game. Now I think any game developer knows what game this is, but I was really proud of myself for making a game that actually works. I didn't change a thing from the tutorial because I really wanted my game to work. Thinking back, I could have changed a few things to make the game unique, but it's not that big of a deal. Now I could still barely code, so as much as I wanted to make a game without following any tutorials, I just didn't think I was ready yet. So I followed one more tutorial and I made this game. This time I really tried focusing on how the code works. Making this game taught me a lot about UI and animations. Now that I made a few games, I thought it was time to try and make a game without following any tutorials. Okay, I still had to search up a few things, but for my third game I made a first-person shooter. Now I know it's not that impressive, but I was still impressed that I did a good amount of the code by myself. And I added some things like a reloading system, UI, and a few targets to shoot. I did give up on the project a few days later because I was running into a bunch of errors and my code was getting really messy. At this point I was bored of game development. Like, this is so dumb, I'll never be able to make a good game. But then I learned that as a solo developer, my expectations shouldn't be too high. I should focus on a more simple project, one that I won't give up on in a week. So I made Flappy Bird. Yeah, well, in 1 day, that's the cool part. It took 3 days for the original developer of Flappy Bird to make it, so I thought this challenge would be great for my non-existent attention span. I mean, if I can't download Flappy Bird, why not just make it? But this actually proved to be really easy. I just stole the assets from a website and just did some code. Now it is missing some things like a main menu and some animations, but this was done in 1 day, so I didn't really have time to do that other stuff. Either way, I saw this as a win. Next, I decided to make a mobile game. So taking the scripts from the Flappy Bird game and modifying them, I made this game. Now I know the game isn't that good, but I added a pause menu and a main menu, so I made a whole UI system and it works really well. I even followed a Brackeys tutorial to make a gradient for the background. Then I streamed the game to my phone to try it, and I don't know what happened to the graphics, but this just looks horrible, but either way it works. Next, I wanted to get into pixel art, so I downloaded Aseprite and started messing around making some sprites. Then I learned how to make a sprite sheet, and I spent the next couple weeks making a full sprite sheet for my next game. I also made a player, and then I had to make animations for the player. And this was like the worst thing ever because you have to replace each pixel for each frame, so I started gaining respect for pixel artists. Once the game was done, I was really impressed with myself as the animations were really smooth and the sprite sheet looks really good. I spent way too long working on making the sprite sheet that by the time it came to making the game, I had already lost interest. But maybe I'll come back to this game in the future. Now for the biggest game I've made so far. I had a lot of ideas for this game, and I even added a boss. I added a bunch of things, but I spent way too long making it. I mean, I spent 3 weeks making a player for this game just to give up on it and get something from the asset store. Because whenever I sent the player to Unity, he would spawn upside down and there's nothing I could do to get him standing up. I really wanted to keep working on this game because I had a lot more ideas, but I already spent long enough working on it, and I thought I should try making a new game. Which brings us to my most recent game. Obviously, this is still a work in progress, and hopefully I can get to some level design soon. I've been working on this project for about a month, and most of that time was just spent doing the pixel art because I'm still very bad at pixel art. The combat feels really good, and hopefully the rest of this project goes well. Something I learned over this past year in game development is that I shouldn't have too big of an idea for a game, because realistically, game development is really hard and takes a lot of time, and whenever my idea for a game was way too advanced for me, I always ended up quitting on the project. Having big ideas for a game is great, but sometimes sticking to something more simple is best. Working on games with different styles helped me learn a lot more as well. That's how you really grow and become way better at game development. Thank you for watching this video, hopefully you liked it. I'll be coming out with more devlogs in the future, and if that interests you, feel free to subscribe. Bye.